was the hardest mission field that Paul ever entered. You need only to read the epistle to the Galatians to discover that. Galatians was the hardest epistle that Paul wrote. He wrote it to a group of people who had a spiritual bent in the wrong direction. They were constantly going off the track. He visited those churches more than any other. Let me give you this brief background of Galatian country. So I wonder why there's not Galatians 1, 2, and 3. I always thought Corinth was his artist church, which Paul is entering on this first missionary journey. The people for whom the province was named were Gauls, a Celtic tribe from the same stock which inhabit France. In the 4th century BC, they invaded the Roman Empire and sacked Rome. Later, they crossed into Greece and captured Delphi in 280 BC. At the invasion of Nicomedes I, king of Bithynia, they crossed over into Asia Minor to help him in the Civil War. They were a warlike people and soon established themselves in Asia Minor. In 189 BC, they were made subjects of the Roman Empire and became a province. Their boundaries varied, and for many years they retained their customs and language. The churches which Paul established on this first missionary journey were included at one time in the territory of Galatia. So, this is the name which Paul would normally give to these churches. The people who were blonde Orientals, these Gaelic Celts, had much of the same temperament and characteristics of the majority of the American population, which came out of that same stock in Europe and the British Isles. Caesar had this to say of them: the infam, uh, infirmity of the Gauls is that they are fickle in their resolve, fond of change and not to be trusted. Another writer of that period described them as frank, impetuous, uh, and impressible, eminently intelligent, fond of show, but extremely inconsistent, the fruit of excessive vanity. Paul wrote them a very harsh letter because they needed that kind of letter. The majority of the people in the United States are like them. This is the reason so many cults and isms have begun in this country. We are a fickle people. One day we follow one leader, and the next day we follow someone else. It is amazing to watch the polls and our political candidate of our political candidates. If they make one statement, one slap of the tongue, the entire population shifts from them to someone else. They are fickle people. They would make, they very much like the Galatians. Maybe the wrong comment on Twitter might be included in the list here, but back when he wrote this, there wasn't Twitter. So all of this sounds like this section, especially in this session, especially interesting to us. Martin Luther used the epistle to the Galatians for the Reformation because it was written to folks who are like